going on, guys? Welcome to the Four Horsemen Sports Podcast for September 25th, 2024. On today's episode, we got some topics for you guys. We're going to be talking about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. We're going to be talking about Shedeur Sanders, J-Rob's favorite player in football ever. We're going to be talking about Jaden Daniels and his impressive debut, and we're also going to be talking about the Bengals. So before we get into the episode, if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. And in the comment section, let me know right now, who is your MVP of the NFL through the first 3 weeks of the season? But before we get into the video, I do have to introduce our fourth horseman on this panel, which is Mr. Ben Garcia. He's the loser at the top right.
Hey, let me just explain why I'm more qualified than everyone else to be on this panel.
Wow.
I work over at Fox Sports 910 here in Phoenix. I'm a fill-in guy as well. I do a lot of radio work. I host Locked On Suns as well. You could check that out as well. Work at Locked On Podcast Network. And then I just yap about sports on all of my social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And recently on the up and up. And one of these days I'll leave these guys behind.
Okay, man.
All right.
We see you at the top of the mountain, brother.
Hey, let's get into this
first
topic here. Let's get in this first topic. All right, so Philadelphia Eagles, impressive defensive performance on Sunday versus the New Orleans Saints. They're able to escape New Orleans with a 15-12 win. With this victory, they're now 2-1. They're number one in the NFC East, tied for number one in the NFC East. Crazy to say with the Commanders in the first 3 weeks. But coming out of this game, I'm going to take the floor here because I have a take that I think will be much discussed with this panel here. The Philadelphia Eagles have a quarterback problem. And what I love is Eagles fans will sit there and tell you that they don't have a quarterback problem. That what you see on Sunday, what you saw on Monday, what you saw on the previous Friday is not reality. We live in a fantasy land. You want to know what? Those 26 turnovers that he has since the beginning of last season, that didn't happen. This happened with Carson Wentz where there was clear regression, and people didn't want to admit that. It was uncomfortable to admit that there was clear regression.
Wentz.
Let me cook now. Let me cook.
Let him finish. Let him get up. Let him get up.
One thing that I really don't like about this is people who are saying, well, if you take away the turnovers from Jalen Hurts, he's actually having a really good year. That is the equivalent to a fat person saying, if I wasn't fat, I'd look pretty good. The reason why you don't look good is because you're fat. The reason why Jalen Hurts is not playing good football right now is because he's turning the ball over and he is a crutch to his offense. He is what's holding that offense back. Oh, well, he didn't have A.J. Brown. Well, I was told that Devontae Smith was a number one receiver. Saquon Barkley looks like a top 5 player in the entire NFL this season. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. They got rid of Brian Johnson. What's the excuse now? Jalen Hurts, to me, is not a good quarterback. He is bottom 15 out of the starting quarterbacks in the league, and he's the reason why the Eagles are not going to fulfill their ultimate goal this upcoming season.
MJ, so how is Jalen Hurts the reason, but you saw that game because it was at 1:00 and your Cowboys at 4:25.
This isn't about the Cowboys. It's not about the Cowboys. Stay on the Eagles.
Hey, I'm staying on the Eagles. And so you saw that game, and yes, the turnovers are bad. And he's got to clean those up. But what it has me thinking is I need to apologize to not Dak Prescott, but to Josh Allen. Because, you know, when you're a gunslinger, when you try certain stuff, when you're a hero ball type of guy, you do some stuff and you end up getting some turnovers. But yes, it's valid to say when you eliminate those turnovers and when you're without A.J. Brown, you're without Devontae Smith, you're without Lane Johnson, who could very well be a top 10 player in the league, top 15 at worst when he's 100% healthy. You're without a guy in Mekhi Becton, and you go ahead and lead a game-winning drive. He flat out called that man-to-man coverage, got Dallas Goedert out there, a 61-yard reception, and then Saquon Barkley ended up finishing it at home. I feel like, all right, yes, the turnovers are bad. but it's disingenuous to say like that's the end all be all. Like Hurts is still a reason why the Eagles are 2-1.
Exactly.
And he gave a pass to Saquon Barkley in the Falcons game. If he catches it, you're talking about a team who's 3-0. Who's 3-0. So again, he's got to limit those turnovers. But the biggest reason is the Eagles head coach. That's got to be the biggest reason. Jalen Hurts is a part of the reason why they're in the games. They're in the games.
Yeah, I'm never going to say let me jump in on this really quickly. I'm never going to say a guy who outdueled Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl for 3.5 quarters is the problem. Jalen Hurts is clearly a product of bad coaching. Now, do I think Jalen Hurts is the top 5 quarterback in the NFL? No, I think anyone that thinks that, I think it's silly. He's much closer to the 12th than he is the 5th. He's probably somewhere between the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 range. It's just not fair to put it all on him. That offense is not creative. Jahan Dotson was a net negative. You and I talked about this, Chris, individually. It was no reason to go after that guy. We had watched him. He wasn't great. He's small. He doesn't fit what the Eagles do. He's not a great blocker either. A.J. Brown has been out. And of course, you're going up in the Superdome against a Saints team that was riding high. Yes, it's fair to say Jalen Hurts needs to cut back some of the turnovers. But also, man, it is a real clear coaching disadvantage. And I'll even take it as so far as to say Jalen Hurts is outperforming what Nick Sirianni is giving him. Now, is that going to now listen. I have been well on record saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are not a team I'm buying into this year because I don't believe in the coaching. Because I don't believe that you can be great. And I didn't pick them to win the division. I thought the Cowboys would until, the Cowboys decided to stop playing football 3 weeks ago. You cannot have a coach and a quarterback that doesn't see eye to eye. And they just simply don't. And so that's where I'm at. It's hard for me to evaluate Hurts and think, is he the Super Bowl guy or is he the guy that we saw in the last 8 games of the season last year? Because Nick Sirianni is so bad. And that is a Howie Roseman issue. That's an ownership issue. That's something that you and I talked about, Chris, that should have been addressed in the offseason, and it never was. And we're going to blame coordinators again. Doesn't seem like MJ's doing that, but it seems like everyone else is. And I just don't think it's fair. And I'll toss it over to J-Rob, too, about this.
So I think the entire take was disingenuous, Chris. Since 2002, no quarterback in the NFL has a higher win percentage than Jalen Hurts. And I think a lot of people forget a season ago when the Eagles were, what do you guys were 11-1, MJ 10-0 to start the year.
Yeah, we had 10 wins.
You're about 10-0 to start the year, 10-1 to start the season. Let's be completely transparent. We knew they didn't look great through those 10 wins. That was very reminiscent of that overachieving Steelers team from a few years back that we all knew wasn't great, but got into the playoffs and fell completely short like we knew they were. But the games that they were able to win a season ago, Jalen Hurts coming alive for them down the stretch was a big part of their ability to make it through a lot of those games. A lot of the things, and I think the statement coming from you, Chris, was a little disingenuous from a standpoint of we've seen Dak Prescott put up impressive stat lines trying to catch up. But we fail, but we give Jalen Hurts we discredit him because he got 2 turnovers, but in the fourth quarter, he leads a drive to win the game for his football team. I think the way he performed in the Super Bowl was a clear-cut example that Jalen Hurts has always been a winner in his career. Despite getting benched at Alabama, this man is known how to win football games. He has a level of pedigree. And I think Ben hit it on the head. The coaching, the offense from a year ago, I'm an X's and O's guys, Chris. The offense from a year ago was abysmal. Wasn't creative at all. I thought a lot of it was very predictable. And truthfully, that was one of the reasons why it never seemed like it was going to click with the offensive coordinator there at the time. Now, I look at this season, I do like the acquisition of Kellen Moore. I don't like the acquisition of Jahan Dotson. I think there could have been other players that they could have got to fill that wide receiver 3 role because you need more like a Juwan Jennings type of receiver than you do a Jahan Dotson in that offense if you want them in a wide receiver 3 type of role. A versatile receiver could do a lot of different things. But ultimately, when the Eagles need Jalen Hurts the most, when they need Jalen Hurts to make a play, he has come He's come through for them time in and time out. And I think it is unfair to call him a 15, bottom 15 level quarterback because it's just not true. And I also feel like one of the things we praise Josh Allen for, and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen are not on the same level. Josh Allen right now looks like the front runner for the MVP in the league right now. However, we all are very aware that Josh Allen's hero playing style at times has gotten the better of him. It has led to turnovers. But the things we've very much been okay with taking the good and the bad when it's come to Josh Allen and his hero ball antics. And Jalen Hurts has had to play hero sometimes, and it doesn't always work out. But when it does, it really does. I mean, when they beat with the game from the other night ago, I thought he was going to get tackled 3 yards short of the first down. He cuts it back in and takes it upfield. Those are the type of plays that you expect out of the guy you're paying the most out of anybody on your franchise. And Jalen Hurts has continued to do that for the Eagles. So I think it's unfair to look at his situation and think he's just a bottom 15 quarterback because he's had a lot of success very early.
Okay, yeah. He made a game-winning play there for Atlanta last week. He made a game-winning play, which, by the way, we can blame the play calling for them last year against Seattle, threw an interception against Seattle. Who did they play that game, by the way? Drew Lock, right? He's losing to a lot of backup quarterbacks over these last 2 years. Threw an interception to lose the game against the New York Jets. He's a turnover machine. I don't think there's any debating that. We can talk. He has 6 turnovers this year. This is a trend that's happened. Here's the thing. Jalen Hurts, throughout the course of his career, outside of the 2022 season, has been a mediocre quarterback. I believe that the 2022 season is an outlier. He's not a good pocket passer. Teams are daring him to actually process information and go through reads. And if you turn on his tape and Jane Daniels' tape and you take away the players, the numbers, all that, Jane Daniels looks like the fifth-year quarterback. Jalen Hurts looks like the rookie.
And I think this is where I have to ask, do you know what you're watching on the film?
Yes.
So when you look at you don't. No, you don't. I don't think you do. I don't think you do because the way that they're operating with the Commanders.
A quarterback that's struggling to get
what I'm saying is you're taking it for face value, but you're not taking into account what the
Atlanta Falcons, and he's not getting any criticism for it.
You're not taking into account, Chris. You're not taking into account the way that they're utilizing Jaden Daniels versus how the Eagles are utilizing Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna just say this. I'm not gonna get into the Brit comments from the Bengals with the whole they run a college offense. But I think the thing that is very similar to what transpired a season ago with the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud, there were a lot of situations where they had Jaden Daniels in a match protect situation with only 2 receivers going out for a pass. That was a very similar to what they did in Houston. Those type of things for a rookie quarterback is how you help them succeed. Don't force them to have to read too much on the field. Now, I'm not saying Jaden Daniels was not able to get through his progressions last night, but I think the way that the Cliff Kingsbury, Ben's guy, by the way, doing a fabulous job in Washington.
Kingsbury offense.
I'm just saying, hey, I don't want to go on the way he's maximizing the situation he has with the Commanders. I do not with the play calling. I do not think it's the same thing going on in Philadelphia. And that's all I want to say to that. Because
that's fair.
The play calling looks very different. And I don't even want to compare that because I don't think if I turn that tape on, I don't think Jalen Hurts made plays versus the Saints. And I thought to myself, he's not a seasoned quarterback. I don't think it's always going to look perfect. And I think a lot of people understand that this Eagles team, they've been good through this tumultuous discourse that has happened within your organization. And I think that says something about your quarterback, to be honest.
Yeah, but this is what we're not going to do. We're not going to talk about how great his offensive skill players are. And then when the offense is underperforming, which, by the way, it's underperforming, they weren't good versus Atlanta. They weren't good versus New Orleans. We can't sit here and say, oh, the quarterback bears no blame. Does he bear no accountability for that terrible interception he threw against the Falcons?
They're 2-1. They're 2-1 to start the year.
Wait. Are you talking about his interception?
In Jesse Bates' hands, MJ. That's what I'm talking about.
You're talking about his interception against Jesse Bates when he gave a routine catch to Saquon Barkley to win the game. If Saquon Barkley makes that catch, we're winning the game, though.
But aren't quarterbacks supposed to overcome that? Didn't you tell me that, MJ? If that was Dak, are you not flaming him?
Bro, like, all right, cool. Like,
yes,
you
you
should
are.
have done a better job in that situation. But what we've not finna do is go ahead and say, like, Jalen Hurts is the problem. Jalen Hurts, they don't get in certain situations without Jalen Hurts.
That's above the point. Regardless, the Eagles are 2-1 to start the year. That's why we're not going to lose our minds and overly criticize him because, we can all agree he has to cut down on these turnovers. But they're also 2-1. And he's a reason why he's a part of the reason why they're 2-1.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
They're not winning. The thing is, you're trying to argue that they're winning despite him, and I don't think that's true.
No, I think they are.
They're clearly winning despite Nick Sirianni and the offensive play calling. I mean, it's clear. It's clear. Now, Chris did say something that was absolutely correct as well. They are underperforming. And J-Rob said something that I thought was a little disingenuous. They're not winning because Jalen Hurts is either playing bad or great. Honestly, through the beginning of the season, he's been fine. He hasn't been spectacular. He has had moments. And that's why I say fine.
So is Trevor Lawrence.
He's had moments. No, Trevor Lawrence has been god-awful.
Trevor Lawrence got Eagles roster. I'm telling you, that's a better option.
Jalen Hurts had specifically 2 horrendous throws in the Falcons game. But I also watch him drop a ball in between cover 2, in between 2 defenders later on in that Falcons game as well. And he uses his legs very well as well.
$55 million a year.
Listen, I agree. Chris, no one agrees with you more than I believe the Philadelphia Eagles are going to implode this year.
We cannot let him get off the hook.
But I'm not going to jump on. I will be ready for the moment to jump all over the Eagles. I'm not going to do it yet because they haven't given me clear reason to do it yet. But don't worry. This is where I agree with you, Chris. It's coming. It is coming.
But the thing is, too, Ben, we can't let him get off the hook. He said Trevor Lawrence, the offense in Philadelphia will be better behind Trevor Lawrence.
Well,
and the thing is, nonsense. The reason why that's such an off. But the thing is, Chris, the reason why I feel like now this has become the way you feel about Jalen Hurts is really you're the despised for the Eagles is because there's not a quarterback in football currently since 2001 with more turnovers than Trevor Lawrence. In interceptions and fumbles lost, it is giveaways. It is number 1 at the top of the list when it comes to giveaways. The one thing that you criticize Jalen Hurts more than anything about is Trevor Lawrence. And if we're talking about splash plays, he get 1 or 2 splash throws a game where he reminds you that this is why he was the number 1 pick. And then the rest, you have a bunch of below average at best tape. So you cannot like Jalen Hurts. But let's not go off the wagon and say things like Trevor Lawrence because that ain't true. That is not true.
Because
that ain't true.
Okay. Look at that Jags roster. Are you trying to tell me that that's even remotely as good as what
I said? The same thing about Carolina. I said the same thing about Carolina a week ago, and I'm eating my words.
With AJ Brown being out, it's not like it's here and here. It's a better offensive line. I'll give you that. I'll be objective. No,
MJ, that's above the point. He's not going to use the outside the offensive line right now.
Because God, Gabe Davis
got mad weapons. You got Kirk. You got Brian Thompson. You got Travis Etienne. They've tried to give him as many weapons as possible. I'm not trying to hear that because you don't even give Lamar that same type of grace. Stop.
Listen, we're definitely jumping off. We're jumping. We are jumping so off topic with the Trevor Lawrence thing. Let me just say this to you, Chris, really quickly. Yeah, the discrepancy I think is clear in weapons. Yes, the Jags do have some weapons. Gabe Davis is not a good wide receiver. He's just not. He wasn't with the Buffalo Bills. Christian Kirk is a very, very reliable number 2. Travis Etienne is awesome. I love Travis Etienne. Mm-hmm. That had nothing to do with the Disney Channel interception he threw to DeMar Hamlin. Seriously, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. He's wide open.
Worse than the
wide open.
He was
wide open.
That was worse, Ben.
All right.
Now we want to talk about quality.
Let's get to our next topic.
Chris. One right to Jesse Bates.
Let's get to our next topic, man.
Okay. All right. I want to ask the panel this question: Is Jalen Hurts as good now as he was in 2022?
No, he's not. He's
No,
but
he's
like,
not.
but let me say this, bro. Let me say this. Do
That's
we
fair.
not
Joe
see-
Burrow been as good as he been since
Hey,
2001?
do we not see what Josh Allen has been with Joe Brady instead of Ken Dorsey? You're talking about a guy who has limited his turnovers. Coaching matters. Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid, the best offensive play caller in the history of the NFL. He benefits from that. So, yes, what I like for Shane Steichen to be here, damn it, be the head coach of the Eagles, I would like that. And I think that Hurts would be a better quarterback with Shane Steichen versus with Nick Sirianni. But we're not finna act like coaching isn't a big reason why we talking about Hurts hasn't like replicated what he did in 2022. And I'm the first person to say he hasn't replicated that, but he ain't no bottom 15 quarterback. We're not going to do that. It's just he has these bad moments and then he has to overcome them late in games in second halves.
Okay. So one last thing on that. You said coaching matters. What about Dak with Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, a guy who you don't like? It doesn't matter.
Kellen Moore led y'all to the number one offense in football. With Kellen Moore, you were the number one offense in football with Kellen Moore.
And with Mike McCarthy, they were the number one offense in football.
They're not right now. So we all know
they're not right now.
Let's just all right,
and
guys.
They weren't number one in football.
Listen, the things you need for the things about Dak and Jalen Hurts, there are a lot of similarities, Chris. You might as well just admit that. A lot of the things you don't like is
one quarterback thrown 43 touchdowns and 13 interceptions since the start of the last season.
There's only one
quarterback in Super Bowl.
Okay, can we move on? We'll start next topic.
Move on. Listen,
we'll move on to the next topic. Okay.
Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, the kids can fight. Kyler Murray's the only quarterback with the perfect pass rating 50 yards this year. So let's just move on.
I ain't gonna lie. We could get into the Kyler Murray agenda because that's a top 10 quarterback if I've seen one.
Hey, look.
All right, let's go.
Look, to the people watching, we all love each other. We have impassioned debates because we love each other.
I don't love any of you.
I love MJ and Jalen. Okay.
I could. I don't want to love you. Next thing.
All right. So let's move on to the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Let me start off with this take, guys. I think the Bengals are a bad football team. I don't think their defense is good at all. They lost some really good pieces on that defense that they did not replace. They haven't drafted well ever since they drafted Jamar Chase. And overall, when I look at this offense, the offensive line is still poor. They weren't able to replace Joe Mixon. They have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside. It's just not enough. So am I off kilter here when I say that the Bengals just aren't a good football team? And fortunately for them, they have a really good quarterback that I think right now is bearing a little bit too much of the blame. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I'm going to take a victory lap on this because I put out briefly, I put out on my social medias, I picked two teams to pull back. It was a topic we talked about on Fox a couple of weeks ago, and I said, one team from each conference that the public is picking that you're fading. And I asked it on the Host in the Air, and I picked the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Francisco 49ers. We don't have to get to the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Noisy off seasons almost always lead to disappointing regular seasons. It's one of the reasons why I picked against the Eagles, just going back to that segment earlier. Just too much dysfunction. Jamar Chase, contract extension. For some reason, he wants one 2 years in advance. That just generally doesn't really happen, especially with an organization that's notoriously cheap. T. Higgins wants a contract extension. He's not getting it. The offensive line still isn't very good. Joe Burrow's coming off of an injury that now, if he has another injury, we are talking about the Bengals having a serious quarterback issue for the future because the guy can't stay healthy. And then you had mentioned it, Chris, something that no one talked about that I was shouting from the rooftops. This defense has progressively gotten worse and worse everywhere. Whether it was Jesse Bates, whether it was DJ Reader, Lou Anarumo can only do so much. It is not the defensive coordinator's fault. That guy can coach. This Bengals team was due for a clear regression. I'm not here to rag on Joe Burrow. I think he's awesome to an extent. But this team has real issues. Didn't replace Joe Mixon, which that's fine. Running backs are kind of, dispensable. And Dak Moss and Chase Brown have been fine. But let me just ask this. Where is the money going outside of Joe Burrow? No one's look around the roster. No one's being paid. There's no reason why Joe Mixon should be walking out that door. There's no reason they should have this much of a tough time with Jamar Chase. I get not paying T. Higgins. Like, I get it. You don't want to pay both. Look at what the Niners are doing. They have plentiful wide receivers. They didn't need to pay Brandon Ayuk. They have so many issues, and it goes from ownership being cheap all the way down to the front office being poorly selecting in the draft. So, yeah, this team's got a lot of issues, and I don't know how fixable it is.
I would honestly say that when I look at this team, they don't seem very good. Clearly, the defense has regressed. I think that is clear as day. Ironically enough, Ben, you asked where the money is going. The money's gone only to the offense because they paid the quarterback. That's where the money went. The money went to the quarterback. And, you hit it on the nose. When you can't draft well, we are not able to draft multiple players that can do something for you. It doesn't work out well. Like, if you think about the Rams, right? One of the reasons why the Rams were able to upset the 49ers is because they draft well. Braden Fisk and Jared Verse are growing up before your very eyes. They are rookies, but they are having to make really big impacts for this team because of how injured the Rams have been. And when I look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they don't have that level of production from their younger players. These are your guys of the future, and that shows your inability to not only draft talent or evaluate talent, but I'm going to take a note out of Mike Tomlin's page. Mike Tomlin believes a lot of it is not a lot of it has to do with the talent. He feels it has to do with coaching. A lot of these coaches are running away from their responsibilities because guys aren't getting it right away. And so when I look at this Bengals team, the offense is going to be, it is what it is. Their scheme this year, fellas, we're going to have to outscore our opponent. It's not going to be a game where you're going to want to thug it out in a 17-10 war of attrition. Rev the engines, let the ball fly, because that's how you're going to win if you want to get to the playoffs. And I'm going to say this last part, Chris, Joe Burrow has bared none of the burden over the last few seasons. We have gracefully allowed Joe Burrow to still live off the fruits of beating Patrick Mahomes. And over the last 2 seasons, he was hurt for a year. He missed last season. And this year, the Bengals are 0-3. As much as we know what their situation is, we also have to look at Joe Burrow, because you know what else? The rookie on the other side of the ball threw 91%. And there were certain plays that Joe Burrow probably wishes he had back. And unfortunately, it is unfair of me to say that he almost has to be flawless at times for them to win. But it's what you said about Jalen Hurts. This is why we pay you $55 million a year.
Exactly.
Because we need you to outdo and lift us up. We need you to be a ceiling raiser for us. You can't meet us at the ceiling. You got to raise us to the moon. And so Joe Burrow, unfortunately, he's going to have to rally his team, and he's going to have to bear some of this burden, because this comes with the responsibility of being a franchise quarterback. I think it happens to all the guys across the league.
100%. Like, this, what you get paid the big bucks to do. Go ahead and win games when your defense doesn't have it all. And he got flat out outplayed by a rookie quarterback. People don't want to admit that. They don't want to admit that. And I get annoyed when guys like Jalen Hurts, or hell, even Dak Prescott in certain instances, like, they get the shoulder of the blame when they get losses. But you talk about Joe Burrow, and it's always a pass. Well, he had 3 touchdowns. He had over 300 yards. But when it mattered most, he settled for field goals instead of getting touchdowns. But I'm not going to make it all about Joe Burrow. It's definitely about this defense. This defense sucks. You're talking about a bottom 5 defense. They played the Patriots and they played the Commanders in their first 3 games. I get if you give up like 30-some points, 40 to the Chiefs, but you're giving almost 40 points, 38 points to the Commanders. That is an abomination. And I like a point that actually Shannon Sharp made. It's like what Tom Brady was great at was that, like, he realized early on in the game, all right, my defense doesn't have it today. And so he makes it clear, all right, I got to go ahead and show up. I have to put some points on the board because my defense simply does not have it. Guess what? The Bengals defense simply didn't have it. They were getting torched by a rookie quarterback who has been flat out amazing. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow has got to match him, and he hasn't. And I don't know what's the reason as to why people don't want to say what the facts are. If this was Lamar Jackson 0-3, if this was Josh Allen 0-3, if this was Patrick Mahomes 0-3, if this was Jalen Hurts 0-3, you're talking about, oh my gosh, he sucks, he's trash, all this stuff. How could you not get this done? But with Joe Burrow, it's, well, he played well. What about everybody else? Like, no, you got to get this done. And if you don't want to, get on him for the loss against the Commanders, if you don't want to get on him against the loss against the Chiefs, maybe it was the PI that might not have been a PI if it was any other team. But if you don't want to get on him for those 2 losses, what about that loss to the Patriots? You literally put up 10 points. 10 points. People don't want to talk about that. So the Bengals, and they were actually my Super Bowl pick. I think part of it was I want to see somebody else outside of the Chiefs. I mean, it's kind of boring to just keep picking the Chiefs every single year. But it's definitely concerning. Now, I will say, even though I have been on Joe Burrow, I don't think this season's over. I don't think it's over. I think they can still, maybe the winning the division is kind of out of reach, but I do believe that they can still ink in the wild card. But it's got to come with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins upping their level up. Zach Moss, he's going to give you what he's going to give you, but it's up to that passing game to make up for that defense, and that's what it is.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing, though, MJ, this is one thing I will push back on. I do think it is a little disingenuous when you say, hey, he lost to a rookie quarterback. I get it. That is the fact of the matter here. Jane Daniels played very well. I think that's undermining his performance yesterday and how well he played. He was incredible yesterday. And that's really the next topic I want to talk about. So when it comes to Jane Daniels, I wasn't 100% sold on him coming into the league. And I'm still not 100% sold on him being a superstar quarterback. But one thing that I think he has proven, to me at least, is I think that he can for sure play in this league. You see that look, my problem with him coming in is the size, right? But I think the difference, we talked about Bryce Young last week. I think the difference is Jane Daniels is a little taller, and one problem that Bryce Young has is he's so small, he has trouble seeing over his offensive line. I don't think that's the case for Jane Daniels, but so far, to me, I think there's some real promise there. I'm not ready to crown him a superstar yet, but there is real promise. Let me know what you guys think.
I mean, like with Jaden, I'll say this. When the Commanders drafted Jaden Daniels, I was sick. Y'all know I'm from Philly. I love the Eagles. And I was like, dang, for the next 10, 15 years, we got to face this guy 2 times a year. He's a flat-out baller. And Chris, I know you didn't like what I said. I'm going to say it again on the Horseman podcast. I'm going to say it again. Out of guys who I fear the most in the NFC East is Jaden Daniels. But right now and for the 10 years in the future.
Okay. That is crazy. I'm sorry. I have to stop you in your tracks. Dak Prescott.
Who's fearing Dak Prescott, bro? You told me some numbers that Dak
one
has
interception.
Done, bro. I'm not worried about that. You're talking about in the league. Has Dak Prescott done this?
What you saying for the future? For right now, you're not telling me that Jane Daniels poses a bigger threat to your football team that Dak Prescott has played very well against than Jane Daniels. I'm sorry. If you want to say for the future, I'm fine with that. Dak has proven that he's played very well against you guys. Continue that. Because I just think that take is egregious. Sorry.
Why should him as a member of the NFC or his team being in this? Why should he fear Dak Prescott?
What's that?
Like, what is Dak?
Why should he fear Dak Prescott?
Have you not seen what Dak Prescott?
I mean, ask you a question. Can I ask you a real question, Chris? Do you think NFL teams walk into games against the Cowboys and say, damn, we got to play Dak Prescott?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. You ask defensive coordinators what they think here.
I don't think they do
ask
that.
defensive coordinators what they think.
I don't think they do. I think they think he's a very good quarterback. This is me not saying he's not a good quarterback. Like, I think Jared Goff is a good quarterback. I think Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. I think more offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
I think more defensive coordinators fear Matthew Stafford than they fear Dak Prescott.
Yeah, well, I think Matt Stafford's a better quarterback. I think that here's the thing. I don't think they fear him the way they fear a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. I think they do.
They fear Kyler Murray more than they fear Dak Prescott.
I disagree with that. I don't agree
Why
with
not?
that. I think there's a different.
Okay, let me share this back.
There's a different. No,
Let's get back to Jaden Daniels. Let's get back to our Jaden Daniels.
Let me share back just really quickly because I felt like I went against Chris the last one.
Literally play at the level that he's played at for years.
Listen, just to settle what was
respect, but that's okay.
I think Dak is a good quarterback. I really do.
No, listen, I don't think there's anyone here that I don't think anyone, just to be fair, I don't think anyone in the NFL fears a rookie quarterback. And the Dak Prescott thing, whatever. Here's what I will say to kind of throw Chris a bone here because I do think he's right. Dak Prescott's 9-4 against the Eagles in his career, has 100 passer rating, throws for 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like, he plays. I was all Eagles last year. I watched Dak against the Eagles. He plays pretty well against them. Just kind of turning it back to the Jaden Daniels thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It just really quickly. I am willing to admit when I'm wrong. I believe it's my superpower. I'm not afraid to be wrong. That's why I have strong opinions. I'll pull back whenever I need to. Jaden Daniels did something last night where I was like, was I wrong there? Did I miss something? I might have my judgment clouded because I watched him in Arizona State here and he wasn't very good. And then he goes over to LSU. He was more of a game manager here at ASU. And then he goes to LSU. He gets Brian Thomas. He gets Malik Neighbors. He gets the shield that is LSU. He gets Brian Kelly. And I'm like, yeah, of course. I still wouldn't have given the Heisman to him last year. I would have given it to Michael Penix Jr. But whatever, neither here nor there. Jaden Daniels comes in and he surprised a lot of people. There's still some. I'm not going to completely change my take yet. I'm still not fully in, but he did give me something to really think about last night. He has an offensive coordinator that is a buffoon. I promise you. I promise you. This is what's going to happen. I've got Commanders fans out the wazoo in my comment section on YouTube right now because I put out a thing saying I'm out on the Commanders strictly because of Cliff Kingsbury. This guy's offense, I can assure you, is not creative. He's really bad at adjustments. Wait until week 8. That offense will take a nosedive. It happened every year. I already saw Commanders fans getting upset about passes behind the line of scrimmage to receivers shorter than me on 3rd and long. Like legitimately, guys, I watched Cliff Kingsbury for years. Any leadership position that he is put in, he's a beta male. He doesn't account for discipline. Guys, they called training camp here Camp Cliff. There were phone breaks and snack breaks. Seriously, he wanted to be a friend. His offense, he's failed up everywhere he's went. I'm still 1,000% out on Cliff Kingsbury. Jaden Daniels did give me something to think about last night because he did something that Kyler Murray did for a long time, which was carry Cliff Kingsbury, make Cliff Kingsbury look competent and get him another job. And now you see that, and I'm like, maybe if Jaden Daniels can carry Cliff Kingsbury, which I believe he did more of last night than Cliff Kingsbury carried Jaden Daniels, my opinion is going to be changed very quickly. I still have serious worries about his size, though, guys. He's really thin, and he's got to stop playing car crash simulator with these linebackers. Otherwise, he's going to have a short career. So that's where I'm at. But week 4. Just for everyone that doesn't know, the Cardinals play the Commanders this week. The Cardinals they're going to open up a can of whoop ass on him. I can assure you. The game is not going to be close. It is going to be a clear coaching mismatch between Jonathan Gannon, who's a man, and whatever people have issues with because he's a defense head coach, I get that, against a lollipop offense on a short week with Cliff Kingsbury. Just wait. Just wait. And Jaden Daniels is not going to be great this week I'm just saying he's not going to be great this week. He's going to have a regression week because it's a short week and it's not going to be great. Cliff Kingsbury is going to have a really tough week this next weekend. So
I will say this,
all you NFC East fans, You're gonna have a guy that's gonna have an extra loss.
Don't underestimate a team that has momentum and is feeling a little delusional.
Mhm.
Because you just don't. I'm telling you. I'm serious. A team that is feeling the momentum, is feeling confident, and feeling a little delusional about themselves. They're a dangerous team because the thing is, a lot like the Texans a year ago, they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, they also had D'Amico Ryans, who's a grown bleeping man, and CJ Stroud, who I was all in on.
The Commanders are 2-1. Commanders are 2-1 right now. They're leading.
Commanders are 2-1, but there's a caveat to that. They're 1-2 if the Giants have a kicker. They didn't have a kicker, and if Malik Neighbors catches the ball,
you know what that's called to me? That's called football. If you ask me, that's just called football. I can't speak on too many things. It's just football. Those things going to happen. Those things are gonna happen. Because that's like if I said the Colts should have been in the playoffs last year if bro don't drop that pass, but that's football. I will say this about Jaden Daniels. I'm gonna give it a few more weeks. I definitely think though a lot of his skills are just translating over to the NFL right now. And I think as the season will go on, we'll see if he can consume more information. I think a lot of the things they're doing from an offensive scheme point is they're not really giving him too many things to operate on. I think they're giving him, here's your few options. Here's where this is the throw we're trying to make on this concept. And I think he's doing a good job handling the playbook right now. Truthfully, I do think his frame is a little slight, but I think when Lamar first came into the league, his frame was a little slight, and he's filled out over the course of his career. And I think Lamar Jackson's overall success in the league gives me a little bit more hope about Jaden Daniels' ability to stay healthy, because Lamar, for the most part, stays healthy. The times he got hurt, he didn't get hurt running. He got hurt in the pocket. That's like your man. That's like Joe Burrow. That's like a lot of quarterbacks. It happens. I don't want to get too lost.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to get to this Shedeur Sanders thing with your take here before we got it. Before Ben eventually leaves us. Yeah. One thing to cap off this segment, J-Rob, that whole thing about a team feeling good about themselves and a little delusional, that might work for majority of the football teams in the NFL. It doesn't work with the Cowboys,
man. It certainly doesn't, man.
Nah, it does not.
I love it all.
It does not.
I love it all.
It does not.
The fans are just delusional. Cowboys,
you want to know what? And I'm sorry. I just have to add this. I think they have a humiliation kink, because whenever they get humiliated, they somehow, and now this week was not a good example, but whenever they get humiliated, they come out and decide to play well. I think they have a humiliation kink, but that's not the point. We do not kink shame on this podcast. Okay, so J-Rob, I'm gonna let you. All
right, well, before we close the show, I just want to give this last take, fellas, because I don't want this to get lost in the archive. Shedeur Sanders against Baylor, he should be quarterback one going into next year's draft. I think if you took Carson Beck and you put him on this Colorado Buffaloes team, they would not have the same level of success. I think we all could agree with that. When I comp him from watching just some of the Colorado All-22, ironically enough, my comp for him is Joe Burrow. And the reason why my comp for him is Joe Burrow is because we've seen Joe Burrow make throw after throw after throw under abysmal circumstances from a offensive line perspective. Shedeur's feet, his fearlessness, his ability to deal with the spotlight that is going to be on him for the rest of his career, and how he's handled it and played under it. I think those are intangible things that translate over to the NFL. I think he's going to be a box office sensation for whatever franchise he goes to. I think he can make any throw on the field. I don't think he has the strongest arm, but his arm can go 60 yards. I think he can throw about 60 to 62 yards downfield, and that to me is more than enough to get the job done. I think his movement on the run is phenomenal. I think the way he goes through his reads is great. Now, there are some things he needs to clean up. I do think he has a tendency to hold the ball too long because of the fact that he doesn't want to make a bad decision. And sometimes, you don't always trust your O-line. But I think the biggest translatable skill about Shedeur Sanders is he played with the worst offensive line a season ago, fellas, in college football. He had a lineman that consisted of the four of us in Bama from Players' Choice at center. And that is what he's had to deal with over the course of the first 2 years in Colorado. And his ability to thrive in these really chaotic, messed up pockets, that is what most rookie quarterbacks usually have to deal with if you're going top 5, top 7 selection. So I think when you look at a lot of those factors for Shedeur Sanders, I think they, to me, make him the clear-cut number 1 quarterback. But I also think Cam Ward has really kind of slid himself at that quarterback 2 spot for me.
Yeah, give me 60 seconds because I got to jump off here now. But let me just say this. You just gave me a lot to think about Shedeur Sanders because oftentimes, here's why I'm out on Shedeur for now. Quarterbacks have to be presidential. They have to be first to take blame, last to get credit. That's what he has to be. I don't love Deion Sanders could be Deion Sanders as a cornerback. I don't give a bleep what you do as any other position but a quarterback. It's one of the reasons why when I bring up Caleb Williams' painted nails, I don't care if a middle linebacker paints their nails. You just listen, you can be different and succeed in the NFL. It's just going to be a little bit tougher for you to do so. The mindset of Shedeur Sanders worries me. The I'm better than everyone else. I'm going to be great. The flexing your watch. I don't care what Travis Hunter does. I don't care what anyone else does. I want my quarterback to be Tom Brady-esque. Lamar Jackson is all flash and one of the most mature people. Last year, he gave the nicest criticism to Mike Florio I've ever seen and just dismantled the guy. Seriously. And that's what Shedeur Sanders needs to do. You can be confident, not cocky. It does not work. Caleb Williams came to this league, and I think Caleb Williams is going to be fine. Marches to the beat of his own drum, paints his fingernails, just different, cries in the stands after a third loss. People call that passion. I call that weird. I do. I call it weird after 3 losses. I don't care if you cry on the sidelines after a Super Bowl win or after a Super Bowl loss. I get that. Third loss against a Pac-12 team, I think it's kind of weird. Don't want my quarterback doing that. There's just things that I believe Shedeur Sanders has to do to be better, at least in the mental side. The talent is there. He's absolutely quarterback 1, but he's got to fix the mental side of it. He cannot be Deion Sanders at quarterback. He can't be. It will not work. He will be humbled very quickly because, as you guys know, newsflash, the NFL is pretty good. Anyways, fellas, I got to jump over to the other thing, but it was great talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Here's one thing I will say, though, J-Rob, to finish this off. I want to see how Quinn Ewers performs for the rest of the season because I was out on Quinn Ewers before the season, but I do think that there's some real improvement that I see from him. And I do love Sarkisian. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
You didn't see what he did against Michigan?
I think we're getting a little too lost on Quinn Ewers as well. I like Quinn. I do like Quinn.
Yeah. But
I'm actually higher on some other guys right now. Like I'm actually a little bit more intrigued by Jackson Dart right now than I am Quinn Ewers.
You think okay. I don't know. I've always saw something in Quinn Ewers. I don't know.
Arm talent is off the charts though. The arm talent is all the way there.
And that's the thing, right? When it comes to Texas, I'm a Sarkisian fan. I think that Arch Manning,
I like Sark too.
Is going to be incredible.
Great offensive mind.
And that's the thing, right? When it comes to Sarkisian and Texas, is they're big on quarterback development. Don't rush the process, which is why I liked Quinn Ewers going back for another year because he wasn't ready for the NFL. And we see so many times.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Something like, if I'm going to go off topic for just a bit, but it's going to be on topic. I see this in the NBA draft as well. I see guys coming out of college, and I'm like, dude, if you would be in college for another 2 or 3 years, you'd come into the NFL or NFL, NBA, whatever it may be, and you would be a much better player because you're a more developed player. You're getting reps against play. You're actually like the main guy in your program compared to if you go to the NBA or the NFL. You're not getting those type of reps that you would get. You're not being, repetition is such a big thing in sports. And, not all reps are good reps, right? Like if you're not ready for the NFL, yet you're starting for an NFL team, that could kill your confidence. That could really stunt your growth. So that's why I'm a little intrigued. This was my whole thing about Shedeur. I think Shedeur is a good talent. My problem with Shedeur was I didn't want him in Dallas because there's too much. We see it right now with Jerry.
The lights of it all, the story behind it. It'll be
But
a lot.
like,
It would be a lot. It would be a
son,
lot.
though. He Dion's
No,
son.
but it
It's
would
not
be a
like-
lot, though. It would be a lot. It would be
Yeah,
a lot.
that was my thing with.
I actually don't want him going there either, MJ. Like, I just don't want
love
it for
it.
him.
I would love it. That's why I
don't want it
disagree.
for him.
Like,
Of course you would.
I want
I
him
would
to go
love it.
somewhere
No,
else.
no,
I would
I'm
rather
dead.
him go to the Giants,
I'm dead
the Las
serious.
Vegas Raiders. I just don't want him dealing with that. I really don't want him dealing with the Jones family. Like the way
That's
that
fair.
way that they've mismanaged their roster, MJ, over the last 2 seasons. This is a team that was full of all pros and pro bowlers for the last like 3-4 years consistently. Amazing run game, amazing offensive line, and like the regression from a front office standpoint, specifically, I think you would agree with this, Chris, over the last like 6 years specifically, this last window, it's been terrible. And I would not want Shedeur to just have to deal with that because the defense, oh my God. Can we just put Michael Parsons back at linebacker?
Oh, no.
How many times are we going to see teams just run power at him? And it's not a dig at Micah. He's just undersized to be a full-time defensive end. This is no discredit to him because I think he's one of the best defensive players on the planet. But the reason why I'm getting impassioned a little bit right now is because the Dallas Cowboys have had so much talent and opportunity. How do you not pay Derrick Henry to come to your football team when you need a running back more than anything and you have no state income tax? And you let him go to Maryland to play with Lamar Jackson, where they're going to take. I'm not even going to get to Baltimore because they're
about to
not
go
prepared for what that duo right there is about to be insanity in the run game. It is about to be ugly when they get their groove going. But I just don't want Shedeur to have to deal with the Dallas media, the Dallas nonsense, because a lot of it that goes on is nonsense. Even the way they've treated Dak has been at times some nonsense. Like, truthfully, the production, regardless of what you think of him, production is how you get paid in the NFL. His production, he should not have even had to deal with so many contract talks when it's time to get his money. He should have just gotten his money a few times.
But if it's anybody who can deal with that, it's just Shedeur, though. That's my
I agree with that too.
So here's the thing with the Cowboys.
I don't think he can't deal with it. I just don't want him to have to, but I do agree with that, MJ.
If I'm gonna let you guys in on some stuff because I talk to people. I don't talk to people associated with the organization, but I know people who know people. The CD Lamb was always going to ask for $34 million. Mm-hmm. So they paid him what he asked for. There was no movement from CD Lamb's side. There was no wiggle room. They're like, hey, you're paying us this or we're not returning to camp. So this whole ramp up period that you're seeing CD have, when you watch that team, CD Lamb is not in football shape at the current moment. He's just not. Like, you can see it. And that comes from not having a training camp. They were always going to pay Dak the figure that he was asking for. They could have paid him that at the beginning of the offseason. And this whole idea that the Cowboys couldn't afford Derrick Henry, I'm telling you right now, it's a flat out lie.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
It's freaking cap. It's freaking cap.
If they would have extended Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb earlier, they could have got Derrick Henry. They could have got DJ Reader. They could have got another linebacker. They could have got another receiver. That's how much cap space they would have had if they would have re-signed guys that they ended up re-signing earlier.
But Jerry Jones would rather have the speculation, the media around, are they going to sign Dak? Are they going to sign D? Rather than make this team better, he holding your team back. For sure. I love it. But he's holding your team back. I can't even lie. Yeah, he's holding your team back more than Dak Prescott is 100%. I'll agree with that for sure.
And some of it is just stupid. This is ridiculous. And I don't even think some of this stuff should be so overly thought about. You know, like, bro, Derrick Henry's on the market. Go get Derrick Henry. Like, get your core. You know your quarterback is going to try to hit you over the nose. Why don't you just get it done earlier rather than later? Like, I just feel like to me, it's not rocket science.
And you want to know what? I'm going to take this back to 2019. if they would have paid Dak after that 2019 season, which I think we all agree, he deserved to get paid. He showed the proper amount of progression in his game to where you say, okay, we feel comfortable paying this guy. Yeah. If they would have paid him back then, they probably would have gotten him for about $28 million around there. I think that's what the market was at. They waited the year for the 2019-2020 season. Dak threw for like 4,000 or 5,000 yards that season. Yep. They franchise tagged him. And then he went out there the year after that, was on pace to throw for like 6,000 yards. Yep. Signed him to $40 million. From that to 2 years, that's $12 million average per year. And by the way, the reason why why he had so much leverage in his contract is because the fact that he had to wait and the fact that there was a no franchise tag, or they used the last franchise tag, they held the Cowboys over the barrel with that negotiation.
Sure.
And because of that, that's why he had so much leverage and why they had to pay him much more than what the market called for. So yeah, no, Jerry Jones, he's a problem. But one thing I do want to say is because I think Will McClay, he's the head scout there. He's really the guy that's in charge of drafting all these guys. He deserves a lot of credit because they put a lot of pressure on him and his department. And I think we can all agree, Dallas, their resume speaks for themselves when it comes to drafting guys. Yeah. I mean, drafting an all-pro in the 5th round and drafting the guys that they've had. It's just a shame that Jerry Jones is the owner and does a very poor job of managing the football team. But you guys got anything else you want to leave with before we bounce out?
Let's call a spade a spade. Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. Let's call a spade a spade. You can't be the league leader in turnovers since 2021, fumbles and interceptions, and a team has literally tried their best to give you weapons and pieces to be great. And we called him a generational talent, so you can say the front line, his defense is not great, whatever. You're a generational talent. There are expectations, and you haven't looked like a generational talent since coming into the league. And I'm no longer giving you this free piece of this excuse that things didn't work out, because there are some people out here who are still talking about the Urban Meyer experience as an excuse as to why you haven't had success. And I think that is as lazy as it gets. And I'm not going to look at Doug Peterson and think he's a bad offensive play caller, because I know he is not. I've watched Trevor Lawrence over the last 2 years make abysmal decisions with the football, and we let it go time in and time out. And so right now, what I've watched from Justin Fields, who's had to deal with, as you can see how it was working out with Caleb Williams, one of the worst situations in football, the same terrible O-line, the same terrible offensive play caller. It's the same thing you saw a year ago, just with Caleb Williams under it. And I'm not even going to do the whole just Caleb comparison with Justice. That was never my issue with that situation. My issue was always Matt Eberflus, the Chicago Bears organization, and how they were running the offense from a offensive line standpoint, from a play calling standpoint. It has been garbage, and it's been garbage with Caleb Williams. They ran on 4th down or 3rd down and goal. They ran boundary speed option. You think Caleb Williams is athletic? Don't get me wrong, guys. Is he Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray with his legs? No, he is not. So why are you running speed option into the boundary? And let's also remember, DeAndre Swift came from the Eagles to the Chicago Bears. He has 70 yards on the season. And it's not his fault. That's not to talk about is DeAndre Swift's fault. The reason why I bring up the rushing yards is because it tells you how terrible the offensive line is that people have tried to put out there was decent. It was just Justin Fields who was making them look bad. And as we can see, the same group is out there, and it's still just as abysmal as it was a season prior. But I'm watching Justin Fields operate for the Steelers, and let's be honest. Yeah, the defense has been great, but Justin Fields, literally the same things we praise Brock Purdy for doing. Justin Fields is doing in his first stint with the Steelers, and he's doing it with a really average running game. Average running game.
So let me ask you this question, J-Rob. The Steelers this year kind of remind me of the Ravens. And this is the reason why I say that. They play excellent defense. Offensively, they have a mobile quarterback. Again, I'm not saying that they're the Ravens verbatim, but they remind me of that, to where there's not great weapons on their offense, but they have a quarterback who can make plays. And I think the offense will be enough for the Steelers to win a lot of games here. I think they're
me too.
in the AFC. I think they're going to win that division if I'm being 100% honest with you.
See, the thing is, I'm almost there with you, but the thing is, I've just seen Lamar Jackson make so many good defenses look like when he made the 49ers last year on Christmas look like a JV team, like because of what him and Derrick Henry are going to be able to do. I'm not going to concede the division. I'm not going to concede the division to the Steelers yet, but you are right. They have if the Ravens don't win it, I got the Steelers winning the division. So I'm there with you. And two, Justin Fields has made some phenomenal throws over the course of this 3-0 run. I think it is clear cut he's the quarterback one. I don't even think this should be something that is overthought about in Pittsburgh.
Well, Mike Tomlin has said he's not going to say who's the QB1 until Russ is healthy. I don't know if that's just out of respect for the old man and Russ, but that's something to think about for sure. But yeah, I think, with the whole situation in Chicago, like, it shows how great, and I'm not being biased here, I think it's straight facts, how great Jeff Stoutland is with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm talking about the best offensive line coach in the league. And people were trying to say, well, he's Jason Kelsey made a name for him. No, like, honestly, you could say he made Jason Kelsey. Jason Kelsey wasn't no like first, second round, third round pick. I mean, he developed him. He developed Mekhi Becton with your Jets, J-Rob. He wasn't doing nothing crazy. Now you're talking about him on the Eagles.
That's why I was sad to see him go, MJ. I was always sad to see Mekhi Becton go because Mekhi Becton is always going to be a good offensive lineman. He just was injury prone in New York. That's literally it. If he could have stayed healthy, that's when I said, oh, he's going to go to the Eagles and they're going to coach him up. He's going to flourish. And I saw it coming. That was a good grab for y'all. That was a good gift for y'all. I knew.
Yeah. So like, it's interesting how the whole Caleb Williams experience is going. I think Matt Eberflus, he'll be one of the first coaches fired. Again, I think he'll get better, Caleb Williams, as the season goes on. But for all those Justin Fields fans that were like, you didn't blame Justin Fields for how the Bears are, and it's an organization issue. They look very, very good right now, and I don't blame them for talking crazy and saying, look, we didn't see what Caleb Williams is. We didn't see what Justin Fields is doing right now. And I don't blame them for thinking that way. But, yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. I think as of right now, bro, I got the Steelers winning that division, though. I got the Steelers winning that, John.
I think I'm sleeping on that brother Lamar, but okay.
I mean, look, that defense is legit. Yeah. I mean, it really is. And that's a team – another team that does a very good job with drafting and developing, right? I mean, you look at that Keanu Benton kid that they drafted. I knew that was going to be a great player when I saw him at Wisconsin. And they picked him, and I was like, yep, Steelers just got another really good player. I'm starting to trend toward – here's the thing, though. I do think Baltimore is about to go on a either.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think – and of course, they did it against – Dallas, but they figured something out with this Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson duo. Yeah. With this, I mean, some of the things that they did, we could talk about Dallas's defense. We could talk about that, but I do think that there's some legitimate credit that needs to be given to Todd Monken as a play caller, and not only Todd Monken, but Lamar and Derrick Henry, because that run game is going to be out of this world, like out out of this world. I just need to see them play better defense, though. The Ravens. That's something that really caught my eye because I was watching the Ravens tape over the last 2 weeks, and I'm still not all the way there with the Ravens defense. But I think offensively, that's going to be a team that's going to be able to dominate here pretty soon.
I just hope that boy in the GM spot in Baltimore dropped his cojones and goes trade for Devontae Adams. All in.
If they do that, they might F around and win they'll win the Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, they do that.
Drop your balls and go get Devontae Adams.
Oh my. They should.
Drop your balls and go get Devontae Adams. That takes you over the top.
For that. Come on.
I'll give up first.
Go all in.
But hell of a show, fellas. Hell of a show. Going to be some great content coming out of this show. So that's going to be it for the podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit the like button and subscribe, and let us know in the comment section which one of these teams that got off slow out of the gate is going to come back and really make a comeback here down the stretch. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Leave the fours in the chat. 4.